Okay, so like I said, welcome and thank you so much for joining me. So, um, before we start, the goal today is clarity and strategy because a lot of the time, people, especially migrants and international students who don't understand the way the job market is in Australia, as well as people from Australia, and they don't understand employers that much, you just go straight for the applications. You just find the job that looks okay and just apply. But there is no strategy behind that. Your resume is usually not strong enough, if I'm very, very honest. I see a lot of resumes, and I think in the past maybe 3 years, when people have sent me a resume, about two of them I have said, no, your resume is fine. You don't need a resume consultation. The majority of the time, you do need a better resume because number one, it's a bit harder for migrants and international students because you are trying to link your previous experience from home to your experience in Australia, but also you need to frame it in a way that Australian employers want, and they want to see outcomes. Okay, so resumes is really important. Another question I always get is about interviews. People always say, what about interviews? Interviews is the final stage of your strategy. If you don't know how to apply for jobs properly, and if you're not getting interviews, if your resume is not good enough, if you can't use LinkedIn, then honestly, interviews is a month in the future. Okay, so we're going to focus on the strategy and LinkedIn and networking first. And then when you have that, then you can move on to interviews. Okay, so as a reminder, ask as many questions as you want. If you just put them in the chat, I will stop and answer them. But later at the end, I will also stop recording and you can put your cameras on and we can have a conversation as well if you want to. Okay. But for now, just for privacy, keep your cameras off and ask your questions in the chat because this will be sent out to people as a replay who can't attend live. All right. How are you feeling today, first of all? Tell me in one word, how are you feeling? Nervous, excited, hopeful, frustrated, exhausted, overwhelmed? I know there's usually very positive. That's great. Hopeful, good, good, good. Anything else? Good. Excellent, Catherine. Hopeful and positive. That's good. Excellent. Hopeful too. Yeah, that's so good. Because I do know good. Amazing. Thanks, everyone. I love the positivity because I understand it does get a bit frustrating sometimes. So it's really good that you've got feeling hopeful as a starting point for 2026. That makes me happy. Okay. So, common feelings that my clients have sometimes they say, I feel behind already, or I should be applying more, or I'm qualified, but I'm not getting interviews, is a really, really common one, or I don't know what to fix first. Does anyone feel anything like that? Especially that I'm qualified, but I'm not getting interviews. Have you ever felt that? Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I work with some incredibly qualified people, and it's really frustrating for them and really disheartening for me. But the reason that you don't get interviews when you are qualified is number one, you have no strategy, which we're going to look at today. But also, number two is your resume and your profile, your personal brand is confusing to Australian employers. I've worked with migrants and international students and refugees for about 15, 20 years. I worked as an English language teacher in colleges and universities, and then I restudied, like studied as a career consultant. But this is who I've always worked with. And when you move to a different country, I know myself from Scotland, it gets confusing. You lose some confidence. You can't do the job you want. You lose a little bit of your identity. You're confused about how to show people your skills and your achievements. And that shows to employers when they read your resume. Okay, so your resume is such an important document. And if your resume shows your career story and your outcomes and your achievements, then you can talk about them in interviews on your LinkedIn and anywhere else as well. So this is strategy, personal documents. If you have those, then everything will get so much easier because if you have that, you feel more confident. Okay. So throughout this, there's going to be a few little checklists. So I would just like to make sure that we understand. Do you understand that January is competitive but not broken? Not broken means that people find it hard. People get frustrated that they don't get a reply a week after an application. It might take 2 weeks, it might take 3 weeks, but there are a lot of jobs available. So it's competitive, but it is hopeful. You don't need to do everything at once. Start slow. Don't think about interviews right now. Clarity comes before confidence. So you need a strategy first. And fewer but better applications is so much better than just panic applying for about 20 jobs a day. If you do a really good application and connect with people on LinkedIn or try and phone them, you've got such better opportunity than getting an interview than sending a generic, not tailored resume that's not going to be read. So you need to put effort into a job that you really, really want over lots of applications. Okay. Does everyone understand that before we start? You meet all the criteria, but you don't get interviews. Would be the need of a work visa. Yeah, okay. Okay, I've just got a couple of questions here from Andres. So the limitation of a work visa. Yes and no. So don't talk about your visa in your cover letter or on your resume. Okay. There are so many different visas out there. What you need to do is make sure that you know the jobs that you can apply for. Okay. So if you are on a student visa, do not apply for full-time jobs. You're wasting their time and you're wasting your time because they are not going to be able to hire you. If you do get an interview, then they will not hire you because you legally cannot work. Also, on Seek, if you do not write full-time work rights on Seek as the option when it pops up, that will usually mean that they are not reading your application. So if you're an international student and you're applying for full-time jobs, but then not writing that you can work full-time, your applications aren't getting read. If you have one of those weird in the middle bridging visas and you can work full-time, but there is no option on Seek to actually have that option, then you need to find that job and apply on LinkedIn or apply on their company website. So there are more jobs on Seek, but it's better to apply somewhere else. So it depends on what your visa is. You need to be honest. You need to educate them because they don't always understand. And do not write it in your cover letter and do not write it on your resume because they'll see it as too hard. Okay. New sponsor. Totally, very, very difficult conversation. What I would suggest is messaging me later. There's a few people that I'm working with in that situation because you only have 90 days or something from memory. Send me a message on LinkedIn maybe or my email and I'll have a chat with you because it is a really tricky situation. You need to know which companies can sponsor. So you need to find the sponsored list for the companies who actually have the ability to sponsor because so it's much easier. And also you need to be using LinkedIn and you need to have such a solid profile. Your resume is so important. If your resume is just basic or mediocre, they are not going to look at you. You need to have such a strong resume and LinkedIn so that they can see why sponsoring you is important. Okay, so send me a message and I'll have a quick chat with you about that. Ashwin, yes, cover letters are important. Some people say they're not, but for migrants particularly, it's an opportunity to tell them more about your personal story and more about your skills and your strengths. So I would say definitely write a cover letter unless it says not to. Okay. Lots of questions. I'll come back to these in a second. But the first thing that they ask is about the visa as a first step. Do you mean on the screening call, Claudia? Yeah, that's if you have the working visa or a visa that you have full work rights, then yes. Um, it's a very different strategy if you need a sponsor. Um, it's a different strategy because it is a bit trickier. So you need to be honest and use networking a little bit more. Yeah. So if you have full working rights, see for example, Devindra, using Seek is going to be hard for you because you're a student, but you have full working rights. So when it asks for your visa, um, if you've got the verified visa option, it might not work properly. So I suggest when you find a job on Seek, you go to the company website and apply directly, or you go to LinkedIn and apply directly. Try to avoid using Seek. Okay. Okay, so let me just get through. We've got some stuff about LinkedIn, about resumes and things like that, and we'll answer more questions as we go. So, common job search problems. So number one, applying for too many roles. So, you're applying for multiple job titles. So I saw someone before saying that they're applying for accountant, tax accountant, analyst, auditor. That's 4 different industries there. You need to be targeted to 1 or 2 roles. Otherwise, your resume is not targeted enough and it gets a bit confusing. So I would really suggest is to narrow it down and having a targeted job search. Okay. You don't need 5 different resumes. That's such a misconception. I create one really great resume for you that shows your story, and you don't need to tailor it too much if it's done properly in the first place. The only reason you need different resumes is if you're applying for an environmental consultant and an admin assistant, for example. But if your industries and your job titles are similar, then one resume is enough. Don't confuse yourself. Okay. um, Employers can't see that you fit in if you're applying for too many different roles. So having a really targeted resume for a couple of different roles is really important so that they can see that the skills and your strengths fit the job that they're advertising. So what you should do is choose 1 to 2 clear target roles. Okay. So if you are an accountant and a tax agent, that would be fine. If you are marketing and public relations, that would be fine. Okay. If you're a chemical engineer and a call center agent, that wouldn't be fine. What we need to remember is that you are not applying for a hospitality job. If you applied for a hospitality job or a retail job previously, you know that your resume doesn't have to be that good, but you're applying for a professional job now. So you need to have a professional resume.
What is how to apply for jobs that mommy?
I'm just muting people, sorry. Um, so just remember that you've got to be a professional. Okay. Um, and 70 to 80% skills match. You don't need 100% of a skills match on your resume. Um, so 65 to 80% is all you really need. A lot of recruiters say that if you have 100% of everything, then you're overqualified. So a lot of the time they want to see that you can skill up a little bit. All right. So don't think that if you don't have everything, you can't apply. It's absolutely fine if you've only got 70 to 80%. Okay, so problem number two is you have strong experience, but you don't get any interviews. And that's what a lot of you said. So, ooh, sorry, I've got a lot more people coming now. So, overseas experience is not translated or not talked about. So often I say, do you have experience from your home country? And someone will say, oh, yes, but it's not relevant. But then when I ask about it, it is very relevant. You know, you've got transferable skills. You show the skills that you have, the strengths, the characteristics. They don't want to know just about the skill that you have, the technical skills. They want to see your whole career story and who you are. So always include your overseas experience, but make it relevant to Australia. Okay. And you only need 10 to 12 years of experience. So don't worry about anything before the 10 to 12 years. Um, Another really big problem is that you are listing duties and not outcomes. I talk about this a lot, and it's the biggest mistake that I see. Now, if you just have, as a simple example, answered calls every day, super basic, but answered calls every day, that means nothing. They can teach you how to answer the phone. What they need to know is the outcome and the result of you answering calls. So, how many calls did you answer? Hello, if we just, how many calls did you answer? What was the result of your answering calls? Did you have fewer, did you get really good feedback on your customer service? Did you have fewer inaccuracies or mistakes being made? So think about the outcome. The same for if you created a process at work. Don't just say created new filing system and process for leadership training. Tell them how long it took you to create the process, how much time did you save, what was the result of the process. So you've got to think in outcomes and results and not duties and responsibilities. Okay, so they want to see your results, your impact, and your scale. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Does anyone do that? Does anyone have a resume that has the results on? Got lots of questions here. Yeah, perfect. Good, 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 good. Excellent. Yay, beautiful. Okay, but can improve. Yeah, that's fair. I like the honesty there. Okay. Number three is resume looks fine, but doesn't work. Okay. For example, generic summaries, skills not aligned to the job adverts, using AI and ChatGPT. So you
Because I think like that.
you can use AI, okay, but you've got to be so careful about it. I read resumes a lot through organizations, or when I say send me a resume, I'll have a super quick look. And instantly I can see that it's been written by ChatGPT as an example. And the reason I know that is because the sentences are just so vague that they don't mean anything. It's like hard working industrial engineer with a proven track record of working with projects and teams. Okay, good. They're fancy words. It's nice. But what about this proven track record? What is this proven experience here? How many projects did you work on? How many people did you work with? What skills did you use? They need concrete, specific examples. And if you don't have that in your resume, then they're not going to give you an interview. And that's a hard truth. Sorry, sometimes I'm a bit too realistic with people, but that's the hard truth. They want to see the outcomes and the results. Okay. So make it obvious within 10 seconds. And I say 10 seconds, but sometimes people say 6 or 7 seconds. So if your resume gets read by someone, it's going to be 6 to 7 seconds, stan. And you might not think that that's a long time, but when I look at resumes for people, That's all I do. I just do the 6 to 7 second scan and I can see instantly if they are ready for that job. And usually they're not. So if I can see that, the recruiters and the hiring managers, they can see that as well. Okay. The other thing to mention is skills not aligned to the job advert. So, for example, when I do my resume consultations, I will analyze 3, 4 job adverts and make sure that all of the keywords are throughout your resume. Um, the reason that's important is for the ATS system. Now, the ATS is it's just like a tracking system. It helps the recruiters find the good ones who can do the job or the ones who don't have the skills. So it's important that your resume is matching the job. And that's why having a targeted job search is really important. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to go straight to the pile and not get read. Now, if you get automatic emails, that means that it's not getting past the ATS and a human isn't reading it. Okay, let me just answer a few questions. Um, Sales and marketing can probably go together. Because they filter into each other. Unless you are going for a really specific area of marketing, like branding or social media or something like that, then I would say sales and marketing communications can be one resume because they are quite linked. And if you are keeping your marketing experience off of your sales resume, then you're missing a big skills gap. And same for your sales. So I would put them together in one resume. Common to hear that regional areas are more keen to sponsor skilled people and their different platforms. Good question. So have a look at work and stay and move to more. Also look for regional councils of areas. Okay. Have a look. Sorry, I just wrote that. Everyone, here we go. So have a look at work and stay and have a look at move to more. Otherwise, just knowing which areas are more likely and the skills in demand. What I would suggest is just doing a search for your role anywhere in Australia and just manually seeing which areas have the most jobs available. Okay. And then you can target those companies. I know I said that I'd answer as many questions, but there are a lot. So if I don't get round to answering your question, I'm happy for you to send it to me, okay, later. Lena, outcomes weren't clearly measured in previous roles. It doesn't have to be exact. You can predict as long as it's fair. Don't say I saved $1 million. But you could say saved 5% or 10% as an example. But all jobs can be measured. It's a really common mistake for people to think that jobs can't be measured. They can. Cleaning jobs, you can measure that. How many rooms did you clean? How long did it take you to clean a room? Did you improve your timing? So when you started, it took an hour and then it took half an hour. You reduced your timing. You've got to be smart about it, but it can be. And that's while having someone to help you to do that. And that's what I do in my resume consultations, like 2 hours on Zoom together. I talk you through all of this so that I can get all of these outcomes and achievements from you, and then I write them on your resume. But then doing that, you're more confident. You're aware about what you did, and you can talk about them in an interview as well. How many pages? 2. Okay, so for tech roles, 2. So I would say 1 page is usually not enough unless you have no experience at all. 2 pages is ideal. If you're going on to like middle to end, 15 years in your career and you've got a lot of projects, then 3. But for a tech job, because it's a lot of tech skills based, then 2 pages. Recruiters receive hundreds of CVs. How much of the CV could be expected to be actually reviewed? Good question. In 6 to 10 seconds, it's a scan. It's a scan. I'm actually going to go down and tell you what they're going to review. But when I do, I'll show you about that in a second, okay? Yeah, no, I agree. And there is conflicting information about visa um, information. I say do not add your visa information. And that is my opinion. I work nationwide across Australia, um, and I work with a lot of organizations. And I always say, don't add in your visa information on your resume or your cover letter or even your LinkedIn, because yes, it opens you up for discrimination. Um, if they ask for it, then add it, especially if it's in an application form. You can't lie. But if it's just another job, having it on your resume opens you up for discrimination. So I say don't add it. I know one recruiter who works in Newcastle, and she says always add it on, but that's just one recruiter. You're working with lots and lots and lots of different recruiters. Career change. In case of career change, should the job title be the old one or the new one? In your resume, always the new one. So at the top of your resume and on your LinkedIn profile, always add the job that you are targeting for. Okay, aiming for, targeting, sorry. And so every time every time you apply for a new job, the top of your resume must match the job title that you're applying for. So if it's an account manager job, add account manager. If it's an account coordinator, add account coordinator. It must match. Okay, last question, then I'm going to go on to some other content, because I'm aware that there might be people who don't care about the questions. Sometimes the job descriptions ask for really specific skills or specific fields, and sometimes unlikely to have an exact match, however transferable from other fields. Can you still try to present the skill? Yes, that's it. That's what you've got it. That's what you have to do. That's exactly what you have to do. So if you are targeting, especially if you're looking for sponsorship, it must be really clever. If you are targeting a specific job, you need to look back at your career and try to match the skill and what you've done to your current job as much as possible. To your future job, sorry, to the job that you want to do in the future. Okay, so avoiding networking. So a quick word about networking. I'm not very good at networking either. I'm better now, but I used to be really insecure about it. So I do understand. But it's really important in Australia. However, a lot of people do it the wrong way. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you're doing it to match the Australian culture. So, for example, if you have a fear of bothering people or, interrupting people or people rejecting you, I understand that sometimes in your culture that is what it is. But in Australia, people are a lot more open. People, they actually generally want to help people, but you can't instantly ask for what you want. A lot of people, they might use LinkedIn and they might say to someone, "Hi, lovely to connect with you. I'm searching for a job as a data analyst. Is your company hiring?" You're not going to get a reply. You need to create a relationship first and then start to ask for what you want. Okay? Because if you instantly ask for what you want in Australia, people will ignore you. So just be aware of that. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. So network to understand the system and to make connections, but not to ask for jobs. Not straight away, at least. Okay. You can do that later, but you've got to make the connection first. Okay. Conversations are much better than cold applications. However, there are some other career mentors who say that using LinkedIn and networking is the only or the best way to get a job. I disagree with that. Using LinkedIn and networking is the long game. It's if you want a job by the end of the year or in 6 months, you want a promotion or you want a better job, then you start to network now to aim for that better job in 6 months. If you need a job now or in the next month or two, you still need to be applying online, but you should reach out to people who work at the company as well. So you've got a much better chance if you, for example, find a job on LinkedIn or Seek, find the name, search for the name of the company, find the name of someone who works in talent acquisition, as an example, and try and reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hi, I applied for this job. Really excited to learn more about it. Would you like me to send you my resume directly? If they ignore you or if they reject you, yeah, what can you do? But the best results I see with clients is who are more active using LinkedIn when they use Seek or LinkedIn or another online application as well. So it has to be part of your strategy to connect with people on LinkedIn as well. All right. So, quick checklist. You have 1 to 2 job titles only, so it's a really targeted application. Your experience must clearly match the roles, 70%. You're not applying because I could do it. You're applying because you're a good fit. And you understand that you understand the Australian level that you're targeting. Now, what I mean by the Australian level is that the different levels, so manager level, coordinator level, assistant level, that's all really important to understand as well. So you must understand the level of job that you're applying for. Now, we're going to have a quick look at resumes. I've got some links in here for future reading. But let me just answer a couple more questions. 1 second, I just need to plug my laptop in. Sorry. Should our LinkedIn profile reflect the roles we are applying for? Yeah, absolutely. So make sure that your LinkedIn profiles reflect the roles that you're applying for because it's important for when the recruiter looks, but also for the keywords. So a lot of SEO and keywords are used in LinkedIn as well for people who want to find you. Is it essential for university graduates to have Australian internships, part-time jobs in advance to secure a full-time role in Australia? I mean, essential and then better is different. I would say that yes, it's much better to have some experience, even volunteer experience. I was actually on the call with someone today talking about this, and I said the people who graduate university and don't have that find it so much harder to get their full-time job in their field because in Australia right now, employers value experience so much. So you could have 3 degrees, but if you have no experience, they will hire someone with the experience. So they really want micro credentials, which is short courses, and experience. So although essential is a strong word, I would say maybe not essential, helpful will help you so much, then yes. But look at volunteer work as well as internships. Internships are usually full-time, Whereas volunteer work, you can do, 3, 4 hours a week. And if you have that for 6 months, that's a lot of experience that you have on your resume. Sorry. Um, Having a long gap in the field and now working with odd jobs, should I still show it in LinkedIn and resume, the current job, which is out of the field? That's a really, really good question. And it's such a common one for migrants and international students. So you're not alone. So the answer is different. So now I would say yes, but categorize them. Okay. So if you've worked in different odd jobs for a year, as an example, just have one section on your resume that says casual roles whilst studying or casual roles whilst relocating to Australia, and then just have a couple of the jobs that you've worked in, including the transferable skills. So don't have them one by one. It's not necessary. Just have it as a category. Okay. And then in the future, when you do get a better job, a professional job, you can take it off your resume altogether. Should our LinkedIn profile? Yes, I answered that. Sorry. Networking, yes, it's a very long game and response rate is almost non-existent. I feel like I don't have anything to offer to encourage them to respond. Okay. So we'll talk about that. I'm actually doing a LinkedIn workshop next week, which will really help that. It will be 2 hours, but it will be about the 4 stages of LinkedIn. So number one is writing the profile. Number two is connecting with the right people. Number three is how to network and how to write the messages and how to have conversations in English. And then number four is creating your brand. And also, writing, having the confidence to write about things. So it might be the way that you're actually messaging them. So we can have a look at some different techniques about that. What to do if you have multiple qualification to apply? I'm not. Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by that? If you've got multiple qualifications, if you have it, just add it to a qualification section on your resume. If you don't have it, but it asks for a qualification, like for example, if it's you must have a white card, then you need to get a white card. In Australia, qualifications are really important in the sense of the micro qualifications. When we say we need to build relations and connections, how exactly are we supposed to chat on common topics, asking for quick call and meet up? Good question, Jaini. Okay, so it's a whole strategy, it's a whole process, and this would be covered in the LinkedIn workshop. But what you should be doing is looking at their profile first, finding a common connection. Okay, so maybe they have worked on a project that you like, maybe they posted an article, maybe you have a common person, and then messaging them and saying, hi, Sarah, I stumbled across your profile and was really happy to see that you work in mechanical engineering and you've worked with XYZ company. I'm looking for these roles now. It's really great to connect with you. Do you have any advice for someone new to this industry in Australia? So you're asking for advice. You've told them that you have read their profile. You've made an effort. Okay. Have that conversation first, maybe 2 or 3 messages, and then say, would you have time for a coffee catch up? That's the hard thing to do. A lot of people have some really good success with it, but don't instantly ask for that. Regarding job levels in Australia, if I only have overseas experience, should I expect to aim for a similar level as my last role, or do I need to start at lower level for the full time Australian role? That's a really good question, and it really honestly depends on your experience and on your industry. So As a general rule, I would say that if you are manager level overseas, you can apply for coordinator level in Australia. Don't apply for an assistant level because you know, you'll be overqualified for that job. Um, Generally, one level down would be fine, but there are a lot of other times when you can get the job that you've done previously. It really depends on the individual situation, but general rule, one level down. It will be good to send apprenticeship or entry level job requirement email to employer. It depends again, same situation. So if you've been working as a manager for 10 years overseas and you want to do an internship, probably not. Um, I don't really believe that internships is the best way for you to get a job. Employers don't always value it, especially if it's like 1 month. If you've got a job at a corporation for 2 months and all you've done is send emails and make coffees and photocopy, that's not experience. If you've actually worked on a project, that's good experience. So you need to actually think about the skills that you're going to generate. Volunteering is a really great way, and I always say this because you volunteer for the skills. There are organizations out there who need your skills. And so you'll go straight in to a project-based role and you'll use the skills and develop the skills. Okay. Oh, that's a question. If the volunteer work has nothing to do with your job experience, can we ask our volunteer supervisor as our local? Yeah, you can. You can definitely ask them for the local reference. You will need the reference from overseas as well to show your professional experience. So have someone in mind. It's usually done online and they must be able to speak English. For volunteering, though, I suggest as much as you can to get experience in your field. And you'll be surprised at what jobs are out there. The skill assessment, it depends on the job. So, for example, engineering, yes, it's vital. A lot of employers would be, you must be a member of Engineering Australia, but it really does depend. It depends on the job. Don't write it on your resume because that's showing that you're from overseas. Yes, advice first and then a coffee chat. Oh, no, yes, you can say that. I mean, it depends on the person, the situation. If they've, written a blog that you really like, just say, hey, that blog's really good. Tell them why. Unfortunately, there's no like one strategy because you're working with humans and you're in different industries and different locations. If I have experience but still have beginner mindset, oh, that's a hard one. Um, you're a senior market manager. Um, okay, let me just read this question out for everyone. If I have experience but still have beginner's mindset and want to start from the bottom in an industry that is not relevant, you're a senior marketing manager at FMCG, and I'm interested at the hospitality, like marketing coordinator. So you want to work in hospitality marketing? Yeah, that would be fine. The thing that you need to really be aware of though is like your resume cannot be too overqualified though. So when you write your resume, you need to write it for an entry level or early career position. So when I'm talking about the results and things like that, for you, I would tone it down. It's got to match the level. Architects, in what sense, Catherine? Architects, I would say, a really project-based resume. I've worked with a lot of architects. You must have your projects and links to your projects with your budgets and your timelines and everything like that on your resume and your LinkedIn. Is it needed to put references in the CV or would it be? It's a personal choice about putting references on your resume. So there's not really any need to say references available on request because they ask for them anyway. If you want to add your references onto your resume, you can do that, but I would not put I'm sorry, it's my dog, but I would not put the contact details of references that you are going to have on Seek. Just be aware of their privacy. All right, I'll come back. I'll come back. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this vlog, and you're going to get a link to this. And this has lots of examples. Okay, so again, resume examples, but this would be an example of some resumes that you need to aim for. So go down here. So tailoring your resumes by industry. So this is technical. So you have all of your tech skills in. The other thing here, so role relevant soft skills and achievements at the top of your resume. So I would always say do a skills-based resume. And the reason that is that if you have a job that is not relevant at the top of your resume, they won't read any further. If you have experience from overseas as the top job in your resume, they won't read any further. So having this professional summary, technical skills, and then role relevant skills and achievements is the first three sections at the top of your resume. What it does is they instantly see the skills and outcomes. So you can see here, transitioned between roles and branches, taken on leadership positions, demonstrated flexibility by working across 6 clinic branches, adjusting to new teams and roles quickly, whilst training and mentoring up to 13. So what has happened there is they can instantly see at the top of the resume what you've done, what some results are, what skills are. It doesn't matter if this example was 10 years ago from overseas, it's still an example. And then they will read further down your resume to get your experience. So have your skills and achievements at the top, and then write your experience, which still should be achievement based, down the bottom of the resume. Does that make sense? You can read this blog, it's all here. Okay. And I've also got a link to an audit your resume here as well, where you can go and audit the resume with a checklist that I've created, so that you can see what you need to do or if your resume is okay. Okay, beautiful. Okay. So let me answer just the questions that's already been asked, and then I'm going to go on to LinkedIn and networking, and then we'll wrap up. On the positive skills assessment, does that mean we should not include, oh, people are coming now. On the positive skills assessment, does that mean we should not include the information positive certification on LinkedIn to avoid discrimination? It is not for professional role like not for a professional role like engineering or medical. Yeah, no, I don't think it's essential until they ask for it at interview stage. It's for a visa. You need it for your visa. It served the purpose for your visa. Don't mention it. Okay, you're past that stage of your journey. If it's medical or engineering, then yes, it's essential to have that. But if it's for not, then just leave it until they ask for it, which they probably won't. Most recruiters require for local experience. That's the biggest challenge for newcomers, though they are having experience in overseas. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I completely understand. However, I have worked with a lot of people who didn't have overseas, who don't have Australian experience, but with the profile, including the resume and including the LinkedIn that shows that they have authority and results, they are still able to get that job. Okay. But generally, you are not going to come to Australia and get the same job that you worked in at home. You need to kind of go step by step and have that strategy. So the step-by-step strategy. So if you want to work as a business development manager and you worked 5 years at home, in Australia, it might be hard to get that. You need to understand why it's hard. Do they worry about your ability to work in a team? Do they worry about your communication skills? Do they worry that you don't understand WHS or you don't understand sales techniques in Australia? So figure out what they think you are missing and write about it right at the front of your resume so that they can see experience and examples of when you've done that. So kind of it's like marketing. Answer their questions, answer their objections before they have that objection. Okay. The second is get experience, volunteer. Again, I'm talking about volunteering. Look on Seek Volunteer and find something linked to your industry. Look for organizations, just search organizations and find something linked to your industry. Get a part-time job that is somehow relevant for transferable skills, or get a full-time job. Okay. So you need to have that ongoing strategy. When I work with clients, I have a 3-month strategy for the job and then a 5-year strategy for their dream job in Australia. If you think you're going to come straight here and get the job of your dreams, unfortunately, it's not that simple. But you can definitely do something to work towards it. In addition to tailoring my resume and addressing the selection criteria, do you think having a referee from a different background could positively influence the chances of getting an interview? Yeah, I mean, no. So yes and no. So you need a reference anyway. It's essential in Australia. Um, Depending on your industry, what I've done for some clients is at the top of their resume, I've had a testimonial. So taken from LinkedIn or something that someone said in the past about them. And I've written just 2 sentences about what a client said or what an old manager said or what a project said, and to prove that they have the characteristics and the strengths that are useful in Australia. Alternatively, instead of references, I would go and get as many LinkedIn recommendations as you can. 3 to 4 to 5, not as many as possible, but like 3 minimum in English. And because what they do is you'll have your LinkedIn URL at the top of your resume, they'll click on that and they'll get more information about you. Okay. I need more specific questions rather than just tell me about urban planning jobs. Do you have a specific question? For architects, is it necessary to undergo a skill assessment and be registered? Yes. So architects, you can be an architectural draft person. You cannot apply for an architect job until you're registered, but you can apply for an architectural draft person job. I'm an HR and administration professional, graduate level, with more than 15 years of experience abroad. I couldn't find any job, even casual or part-time in Australia. I'm seeking now for 1.5 years. I'm volunteering at a museum and can't find a volunteer position in my industry. Oh, I mean, I find it hard to believe that you've had trouble getting administration jobs with your experience. I think there's definitely something wrong with your resume. You should be getting an administration job very easily. So send me a message and in fact, send me your resume. I'm happy to have a quick look for you because HR is different. HR is one of the hardest jobs to get in Australia because they want to know that you understand Australian employment law. So you need to show them that you have that. But administration, you should be getting administration jobs. Absolutely. If I already have a stable network and when the company they work for advertise a job, what should be my approach to reach out? Yeah, it can be direct if you have someone within that company. Yes, if you're in Engineers Australia, write it at the top of your resume. Okay. Okay, so now just quickly, cause we're getting out of time. So just on networking, um, as I've said, it's not asking for jobs. It's not about selling yourself. It's not about using people. It's about actually creating connections. So understanding how it works, meeting people, having a conversation. So change your mindset from this person can get me a job to this person is interesting. I would like to get to know them professionally. And if you change that mindset, You take away the pressure, and they can sense that you are more of a genuine connection. I can tell you firsthand that if people instantly ask for things, I often don't reply because we're busy. They are busy. So I've talked a lot about this, so you can read this. Um, so in January, it's a good time to network. So message people in your industry, comment thoughtfully on posts, reconnect with old contacts, and attend events online and in person. Don't assume that you're going to get a job with every contact, every event, or every message. Go with curiosity. Assume that you're going to meet connections, and they will then, having that connection will help your future career, not your instant career. But who knows? You might get a job, but you've got to be genuine in Australia. You've got to be authentic. Okay. Um, I'm just skipping down. You're going to have this. And I just want to tell you about this. So this is actually a workshop. The early bird tickets are $99. But it's a 2 hour workshop that's running next Sunday from 2.5 hours, sorry. I know it sounds like a long time, but there will be breaks and you're going to cover everything that you need. But it will be from 6:30 till 9 p.m. Sydney time next Sunday. Okay. And it's going to go through the different steps. So a lot of people think, I'll write my profile and that's it. You need to know how to use it to actually be a possibility of getting a job and creating a brand on LinkedIn. So you'll build your professional profile. Okay. Then you'll find the right people. So companies to follow, recruiters to connect with, industry leaders, groups, communities, peers, dream companies, talent acquisition. I'll show you how to do all of that. Then you'll communicate, like we've been talking about. You're going to get a workbook and a guide with templates, scripts, cultural etiquette, what to say, what not to say. And we'll go through a lot of examples on the night. That's why it's so long. So you can actually do some of the work and be on your computer and use your voice, which is the hardest part. So post your opinions, figure out what to say, comment meaningfully on others' posts, build your reputation, share your identity, your culture, and your experience. Okay. So be proud about who you are, and this will help you to get the job. So this will be, from me, certified communication coach and career coach. I'm also a LinkedIn top voice. So they gave me that badge from what I was writing on LinkedIn. So I'll use my experience of getting that LinkedIn top voice and networking a lot on LinkedIn and telling you what I did to get that and what it's meant for me. And you, by the end of it, you will have that strategy, the profile, the knowledge of what to do, the people to connect with, and you'll feel a lot more confident to use LinkedIn because it is essential. It's essential. Okay. So if you want to get that, I'll put the link here, but I also sent it to you. Early bird tickets are $99. They will go up in a few days to 120, I think. All right. And then the final part, the final piece of the puzzle is turning all of this into your job search strategy. Okay. And this is the important part. So name the problem. So what is your biggest problem right now? So for example, most people don't fail at job searching because they don't try. They struggle because they don't have a clear strategy. You just do lots of things, but it's not always the right things. So what is your biggest problem right now? So what should you focus on? What should you ignore? What is not a problem right now? For example, interviews. Don't worry about interviews yet if you are not if you don't even have a LinkedIn profile. Interviews are a later problem. How will you use your energy? What is your biggest problem right now? Let me know in the chat. I know there's a few questions here. I'll come back to them. Missing references. Okay. So if that is your biggest problem, you need to find references in Australia. So you must get volunteer work in Australia. Okay. Essential. You must get a part-time job. So the higher the level of the job, the more important the references are. Um, if you get a part-time job in customer service, as an example, um, the references or the resume is not as important, but you need to get that first job for maybe 6 months and then move on to the next job where references is really, really important. Okay, so focus what you're on. So then strategy question number one, what roles are you actually targeting? You've got to figure that out, okay? What's realistic in Australia based on your experience? Are you applying because you're qualified or because you're anxious? And I mean that with love. But if you're applying for an entry level job because you're worried about Australia and you're anxious, you're overqualified and they will see that. So you need to be applying for the right level of job in Australia. Question number two, what is your main blocker right now? By blocker, I mean big challenge. So is it that you're not getting interviews? Is it that you're getting interviews but you're not progressing? Is it that you're not sure which roles to apply for? Or is it that you're stuck and overwhelmed? Okay, so your strategy should focus on your biggest blocker, but not everything at once. One step at a time is what I always try and say to people. And strategy question number three, where should your effort go this month? Do you need to fix your resume first? Do you need to improve your LinkedIn profile? Do you need more understanding of how hiring works in Australia? Do you need conversations, not more applications? So is networking better for you? So what is the best thing for you to do this month? And how many applications is realistic? So someone just said time up there. So yeah, completely get that. But one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that you should be applying for as many jobs as possible. But honestly, if you spend enough time creating really good applications and connecting with people for 2 or 3 applications a week, that is so much better than 20 random applications. So always remember, less is better. So 3 to 5 targeted applications and not 20 to 30 rushed ones. And final question, no. How will you use LinkedIn and networking? Who do you want to know? Who do I want to be known by in my industry? What conversations would reduce your guesswork? So speaking to recruiters, maybe. Does LinkedIn profile support those conversations? Generally speaking, LinkedIn is visibility. Networking is understanding who you are, and applications is the execution, so actually going and getting that job. And final, how will you know that you're making progress? I suggest keeping a list of your jobs, staying organized. But remember that if you apply for a job, you might not get it, but you can get feedback to learn. You can get interviews to practice. Okay. You can have useful conversations. You can become more confident. So it's not always a failure to not get a job. It's part of the journey and it's part of the strategy. So just remember that. So for those of you who are still around, put it all together. So my January strategy is to focus on what, and what, supported by what, without burning out. So for example, my January strategy is to focus on understanding my results and building my resume, supported by a resume consultation with Natalie and thinking about my achievements without burning out. What would that be? Can you write that for me in the chat? Let's do that. That will help you to have a little bit more clarity before you go today. So my January strategy is to focus on something and something supported by something without burning out. Write that down, and then I'll answer some of the questions. Okay. Horrible question there, Lucy. Do you need to anglicanize your name? Okay. So just when you're writing that, what's your strategy? Putting it all together. I'm going to go up. Yes, I'll be sharing this document. I'm going to go up and I'll answer some of the questions before we finish off. We've gone a little bit over. Where to find events for networking in Australia? I've been using Meetup. Are there any more platforms? You can look on Eventbrite and Humantix, but also look at Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups as well. Time, missing references. Okay. Problems. Your problems are landing interviews, spending hours on custom applying to each job, being ghosted by recruiters after interview. Oh, that's horrible. Look, the ghosting, even after you followed up, it's a red flag for me. Not a job that you want. I know it's hard. I would say just leave that. Okay. They really shouldn't do that. If you're getting interviews, it's a good thing. If you're not getting enough interviews, you need a stronger resume. You don't have to spend hours customizing your resume. You just need a solid first resume and you tailor little bits of it. And so that's the good thing about getting a resume consultation is that I will do the first resume for you. And then you just need to tailor the skills section and the professional summary and all the keywords, and the link to the job that you want is done. So it saves you so much time. Okay. Not getting interviews. If you're not getting interviews, then you need to change your strategy and you probably your resume. So happy for you to email me and add a copy of your resume, and I'll do the 7-second scan. Is it culturally appropriate to directly contact the recruiter of the hiring company for status of interview after no response to the 2 follow-up emails? They were actively responding prior to the interview, then went quiet after the interview session. Yeah, 100%. It's their job. Contact them. 100%. Also, if that was over Christmas, they might have just had holidays. But yeah, contact them, annoy them. It's their job. Do it. Do we need to anglicanize our name? I don't know how to answer this. I think it's a personal choice. There is a lot of research out there that shows that having an anglicized name does help you to get interviews. However, I don't think you should do it. I work with a lot of people who refuse to do it. So it's a personal choice. I'm not telling you to do it. There is research that says you should. I don't think you should. But one thing I will say is that a lot of people from Latin America, Spanish speakers, Portuguese speakers, etc., they often have forenames. That is just confusing. So have just the 2 names, like the Anglican, the Australian equivalent. So Natalie Piet instead of the 4 names that you would be known as at home, because it just gets a bit confusing. So try not to have multiple names, just first name and second name. If you want to make it more English sounding, that is your personal choice. Claudia, I'm a project manager with experience across several industries, but it's difficult here because IT roles usually require very specific technical backgrounds. You need to have a very targeted project IT resume. You need to find the right jobs to apply for based on the skills that you actually have. I would also suggest Same in mining, is that meant to be? No, mining should be a bit easier than IT. Um, they really value micro credentials and they want to know that you are doing professional development. Um, so look on websites like Coursera, Future Learn, LinkedIn, less so, but I would say Coursera and Future Learn and see what technical micro credential you can do. Always add let me show you super quickly. Always add, so this is one of them. The other one is Coursera. If you go to let me just get anything for now, micro credential. These are free to do. You do need to pay for the certificate. It's not that expensive, maybe like $50, $60 it was when I did it. But for example, if you want to do design thinking, instead of writing Future Learn on your resume, you would write who created the course. So for this one, it's created by Globis University. Okay, so it looks more professional on your resume. So if you are lacking technical skills, find those technical skills that you are lacking, research in the job advert, and then find the micro credential, a very short course, can be free, can be cheap, and get the credential to have on your resume to show that you are professionally developing. Okay. Without knowing more about what you're applying for, what you're lacking, what job you've done, what job you want, that's all I can really say right now. Yes, document link is coming. Perfect, Devindra. My January strategy is to focus on fine-tuning my resume and aligning LinkedIn supported by professional guidance, and focus without getting overwhelmed. Beautiful. I love that. My January strategy is to focus on my introduction pitch deck, perfect, and resume supported by reworking on my portfolio and networking without burning out. Love it. My January strategy is to focus on targeting my application, tailoring my CV, supported by professional guidance without burning out. Amazing. So for each professional, there is body that you can participate and network. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I have a list of that somewhere. I'll try and find it. Okay, how to get the initial consultation. Yeah, so I'm going to send everyone this document and I'll put some links together so you can have a free 15-minute chat with me where I can tell you more about my services, which are specific to you. And I'll also offer 10% discount for those of you who've attended who wants to do the resume or the strategy session with me. And the LinkedIn, I suggest to everyone. It's the first time I've done it as a group, so it's much cheaper than when you do it privately, and it will be a game changer for you. My January strategy is to focus on my LinkedIn profile and work on my resume, supported by highlighting my technical skills and following up with the agency and companies. Perfect. Love that. And use LinkedIn. My January strategy is to focus fine-tuning my resume, adding more connections on LinkedIn, supported by Natalie's resources on her blog and website and networking without burning out. My January strategy is to focus on networking, resume building, and building a good LinkedIn profile supported by professional and reliable tools without burning out. And I've attended workshops for CV and cover letter networking programs. Career coaches expressed about my good experience in CV, but last 1.5 years I have not get full-time job. Is it possible to get references of recruiters? I'm not really following, to be honest. Get references of recruiters? You mean like a list of recruiter names? Then yes, I probably have a list somewhere. But it's also, if you just Google recruiter in industry, you'll get a list from Google or AI as well. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you've attended workshops before. Just be aware that not all career workshops are designed for migrants, and not all of those that are designed for migrants are from certified career development coaches as well. There is a difference between a mentor and a coach who can actually write a resume and understand everything through the eyes of an employer. Okay. So just if it's not working, there's something wrong. Don't just use something if it's not working. If it's been for a year and a half, something is not working, you need to change it. Thanks for the 10% discount. That's okay. Perfect. Thank you, Natalie. You are welcome. Yeah, okay. Um, so something. Yeah. I guess my if it was from the government migration department, they should have had someone who was accredited helping you. Absolutely. Um, However, if it's just a workshop, it's very different to personalized support. So it's possible that you have not done it correctly. However, I know that there is like a job drop-in center or something with the South Australian government. So I think you should go to one of them and ask for specific advice about your resume. So go to one of their drop-in sessions where you'll get support by, I think, Eleanor. I'll try and find a link for that as well. You are lively. Thank you. No worries. All right. Well, that's everything. I'll send this to you. You'll have the replay. Um, and I'll send any blogs, any free resources and things that I've got. I'm also going to link in the 10% discount, okay, for those. Um, and sorry, Eleanor workshop only I've attended. Okay, I think she has drop-in sessions as well, where you might be able to get private support, I think. Um, I'll send you the 10% discount and also the LinkedIn session, which will be essential for you if you want to use your LinkedIn for 2026. It's now is a great time with the early bird pricing. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can send me a message on Instagram at JobSpeak Academy, on LinkedIn at Natalie Piet. Come and follow me there anyway, because I always post things. Or you can email me at contact@jobspeakacademy.com. Okay. Oh, good. I'm really happy. Send me your, yeah, perfect. I think I accepted you, Andres, before I came on. I think I have a lot of invites sometimes, so I'll check to make sure I've accepted you. Yay, excellent. So send me a message if you have any follow-up questions. If anyone wants the 7-second resume scan, send it to me by email and I'll do the 6 to 7 second for you. Okay. If there are no more questions, we're gonna stop the recording and